in Assembly District 65 Part C. Thank you for joining us. I do want to start by thanking the Manhattan Youth Center and Bob Townley for the space and for giving us the support, in particular Mark Langford and Taylor Bell, who've manning the door, for all their support and help putting this together. As I said before, it's our first time doing a Zoom technical and in-person meeting, so we appreciate, I'm sure there'll be hiccups, so we appreciate your patience. We're here today to discuss a rare and important opportunity to provide much-needed affordable housing in our city at Tower 5 of the World Trade Center. Since the founding of the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation, first responders, survivors, and community members led by our late Tom Goodkind have advocated for 100% affordability at Tower 5 of the World Trade Center. We want to make sure that we achieve this goal. Right now, our coalition has 3 formal asks. The first is that we have 100% affordable housing at Tower 5 of the World Trade Center, including a preference for first responders, survivors, and their children. The second is that we have additional community members from the various neighborhoods to be included on the Community Advisory Board for Tower 5 of the World Trade Center. And finally, the Community Advisory Council has regular meetings that are transparent and open to the public. So I'd like to briefly introduce the members of our coalition who have dedicated much of their time to organize and inform everyone on this issue. So first we have manning the Zoom Taylor Banny, who has done an amazing job here. Better Park City for Black Lives Matter. She's a 9/11 survivor and a lifetime community member. We have Richard Corbin, who is president of Downtown Independent Democrats. Justine Kucha, who is the chair of Community Board 1 for Better Park City Committee, and a member of BPC for BLM, and a co-founder of Democracy for Better Park City. Todd Fine, in the back, we have, who's the president of the Washington Street Advocacy Group and a historian. Michael Francoeur, who is not with us, unfortunately, couldn't join us tonight, but he's the co-chair of CB1's Transportation Committee. Dennis Galt, who is also a district leader in Part 8066, Part B, and a former CB1 member. Jill Goodkind, a public member of CB1, an executive member of the Downtown Independent Democrats, survivor and wife of Lower Manhattan icon and housing champion Tom Goodkind. Pat Gray, also a member of Better Park City for Black Lives Matter and a longtime community member. And Mariama James, who is World Trade Center Health Program Scientific Technical Advisory Committee member. She's a World Trade Health Program Survivor Steering Committee member and the CB1 Quality of Life Committee co-chair and treasurer. And Roseanne Perry, who is a member of Better Park City for Black Lives Matter and a longtime community member. So thank you everyone for being here tonight. We're going to have Todd Fine who's going to give us a brief history on the World Trade Center site and on Tower 5. So this is our mic.
Right. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm thrilled to see so many people here and online interested in this issue. I'm a historian who studied both the Little Syrian neighborhood, so I'm interested in the history of this area as a working class immigrant neighborhood, which we should never forget. And also has been trying to understand the World Trade Center reconstruction and LMDC. And this is somewhat of a convoluted story, and I'm going to try to give you a very brief introduction of the history of this site, but I can't do justice to it. But part of the reason that we're all coming together is we all need to understand this better from all of our expertise and understand how we can influence this, because I think most people here agree that the reconstruction has been as democratic as needed to be, and this is our last chance to correct it. So the Deutsche Bank building site, 5 World Trade Center, is 130 Liberty Street, directly south of the World Trade Center. It was a 39-story building, the Bankers Trust building, some people know it as. It was heavily damaged in the September 11th attacks. It had a huge gash in the north side. There was immediately after September 11th, there was a dispute with the insurers about it, with Deutsche Bank and their insurers, and eventually the LMDC stepped in to cover that dispute. Actually, the Senator George Mitchell resolved this dispute. What is the LMDC? For people who don't know, the LMDC is a joint city-state public corporation that was designated to spend funds of disaster money from the federal government after September 11th. 20 years later, sort of inexplicably, it still exists. And one of the big reasons is because they want to dispose of this site. The HUD money was used to buy the site from the Housing and Urban Development. In 2004, they began the demolition. The demolition was controversial. Many people who are here tonight advocated that it be done in a better way, but it was done in a way where the demolition and the decontamination of the site, asbestos and other things, were done simultaneously, which many people believe had created a lot of problems. And as we began to see, it was managed awfully. I don't know if anyone could dispute that. Most sadly, because there was a massive fire in 2007 that killed 2 firefighters, and we have one of the fathers of the firefighters who passed, Joe Graffinini, with us tonight. He's written an entire book about that story. I encourage people to read the book and talk to him about how that could be said. But that said, in that context, you would think that we could have intervened and done something more justice better with this site. But what actually happened was that LMDC made a deal with the Port Authority. It's very complicated, but to transfer this site in exchange for the September 11th memorial receiving fee interest to the 9/11 memorial. It's not clear why this private nonprofit needs fee interest or needs to own the land itself. It could be a national park, it could be owned by the state, but they want to have it, and this is basically the justification for producing revenue to compensate the Port Authority. There was a plan to put JP Morgan Chase headquarters there. That fell through. Eventually, there was the fights between the Port Authority and the LMDC about how much revenue could be gotten from the site. The LMDC believed that because they spent so much money on the demolition, they should be compensated even though they transferred so they threatened to sue each other for many years. The LMDC wanted more revenue, which could have potentially come from a residential decision. As we know, there were some scandals at the Port Authority that led to new leadership at the Port Authority. So in 2018, 2019, finally a deal was made that I received through a FOIL. It was not made public, Freedom of Information request, that there was an appraisal process that would be done in leading to a request for proposals between Alicia Glad, the LMDC, and the Port Authority. That was begun in the summer of 2019. There wasn't a lot of interest. There wasn't a lot of time. Apparently, there were only 5 bids, but the winning bid was Silverstein and Brookfield, which pledges to do an 80-story tower at the site, which will have 25% MIH or mandatory inclusionary housing equivalent. But there's public process going on to some degree, a community advisory committee being run by some CB1 members, but as mentioned, one of the demands here is that this involve the community more tonight. But this process is not finished. It requires the federal government to sign off on it. It requires the public to participate in an attempt to actually change the general project plan of the World Trade Center to allow residences, which wasn't previously allowed. So it's a very complicated process, but the bottom line is that the federal government, the American people in New York paid for this. We still have authority on what it should be through changing the general project plan. The Biden administration has to support it. So we believe that tonight, just by discussing this, we can come up with an alternative proposal, and we're in full rights to do so. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd. That was really helpful. I hope, and I'm sure there'll be questions, and we can have them a question session later. And sorry, I'm not in the Zoom, but our next speaker is going to be Jill Goodkind, wife of Tom Goodkind and longtime community member and dedicated to fighting for affordable housing. So.
Hi. Okay. My husband, Tom, before he died from 9/11 cancers, he fought for years to safeguard and increase the small amount of affordable housing that existed in Lower Manhattan. I'm going to talk a little bit about the situation in Lower Manhattan in terms of housing. He fought to benefit everyone downtown, which was not easy. For instance, it took years in a lawsuit to get FIDI landlords to honor the rent stabilization they were supposed to give to their tenants after they took tax benefits. But the one thing that Tom felt was most important would be the most impactful, that he pushed for about a decade, was to make the building at 5 World Trade Center completely 100% affordable housing. And let me say, the need's never been greater. Indeed, the tax benefits that the landlords took, the Liberty bonds, all of the money that flowed into downtown after 9/11, the billions of dollars in benefits, a lot of that went to luxury housing projects. It was so successful, it succeeded in pricing us out of our own neighborhood. We're losing the limited affordable housing we already have downtown, and we're losing it at an astonishing rate. Wealthy developers, they benefit at the expense of those of us who actually came back here after 9/11 to rebuild this neighborhood, to raise our children, to live. Independence Plaza, not affordable anymore, really. Southbridge Towers, same. Gateway Plaza, not based on rent stabilization anymore. Those 3 complexes alone were huge sources of affordable housing. Tom had a vision. It was to make 5 World Trade Center affordable for all. For the first responders, for the families of those who lost loved ones, for the people who came back here after 9/11 to rebuild, for the students who were sent back to their classrooms while toxic smoke blew around them, for those of us suffering from 9/11 illnesses. The Port Authority and LMDC want to give Silverstein Properties the right to build an 80-story luxury rental building, twice as tall as the structure that was there before. And they're doing it on the World Trade Center site. And they're doing it while our children, our seniors, our first responders, our grieving families can no longer afford to live here. The arrogance, the hubris. I'm a widow today because of the terrorist attacks, because we were told it was safe to come back. And I'll be damned if I am forced to leave the neighborhood we rebuilt with our lives and with our health, that I now can no longer afford to live in, so that rich real estate developers can become even richer with the blood money of our community. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jill, for such a moving tribute and for reminding us that yes, that's why we're here, because we all helped rebuild this neighborhood that we now can't afford. So I'm going to ask now Kimberly Flynn. Oh, I'm sorry. And great, thank you. So Kimberly Flynn is going to discuss the survivor history. She's from the 9/11 Environmental Action.
So thank you all for including me in this very important gathering. Jill covered so beautifully the history that has to do with, why we use this word survivors. Survivor history obviously begins on 9/11 when Lower Manhattan's neighborhoods came
Thank you all
under.
on Zoom for bearing with us. We are just setting up,
I'm sorry, what?
making sure our audio is all set. Give me 1 second. And please bear with us, Kimberly. I think you started, but start over if you can.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, loud and clear.
Yay. Thank you. Okay.
Guys.
Thank you very much for including me. Jill covered some of the same ground I'm going to cover. She covered it very beautifully. So I'm going to try to move through that quickly. Obviously, survivor history begins on 9/11 when Lower Manhattan's neighborhoods came under an unprecedented attack that included being engulfed in an unprecedented mix of toxic substances on that day and for many months thereafter. Since that time, survivors have engaged in every kind of struggle to recover from 9/11, often prevailing over an alphabet soup of agencies that just wanted to do it their way. They fought to get the needs of their families and their neighbors addressed. They fought for a proper cleanup. They fought to shape the rebuilding of Lower Manhattan in every way across neighborhoods, whether it was fighting for more schools, a new transit hub for 9/11 health and compensation. The affected communities dug in. Productive coalitions formed, achieved, devolved, and then new coalitions emerged. The last 20 years have been a marathon, not a sprint. And survivors have put their blood, sweat, and tears into the recovery from 9/11 and continue to engage to meet a host of new challenges, including Superstorm Sandy and the pandemic. Now the community is building on the foundation of affordability and inclusion laid by the late, great Tom Goodkind. So I'm going to very quickly shift to some, basically data points that Mariama James wanted me to cover. I think, as a lot of people know, survivors under the definition in the James-Zadroga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act are the people who were exposed to the World Trade Center disaster because they were living, working, or attending school in the New York City disaster area, Lower Manhattan below Houston Street and part of Western Brooklyn. The survivor program in New York City is principally the World Trade Center Environmental Health Center, operated by New York City Health and Hospitals. It has clinics at Bellevue, Gouverneur, and Elmhurst, as many people who are involved in this meeting tonight know well. The total number of survivor patients at the World Trade Center Environmental Health Center is some 13,000 people. Those numbers are going to grow. They are going to grow over time as, unfortunately, more people become ill. They are going to grow over time as new conditions are added for coverage by the World Trade Center Health Program. Currently, the health program, survivor program, is a very diverse group. And it's my understanding that the demographic breakdown for the survivor program is 50-50 gender. Half people, actually, this is not demographic, but exposure based. Half were in the dust cloud on 9/11. Half were not, but were obviously exposed in the weeks and months following. 19% are African American, 14% are Asian, 23% are Hispanic, 41% are white. Approximately 3% are unknown. This is self-report information, so some folks didn't report. Less than 1% are Native American Indigenous, less than 1% identified as other. Finally, if you have health problems that you believe are linked to 9/11, you really should apply to the World Trade Center Health Program for many reasons, including that you will get expert care from doctors who have been treating these 13,000 survivors whose exposures are similar to your own, and also because it will render you eligible to file a VCF claim. I don't want to slow the momentum of this push for Affordable Tower 5. So all I'm going to say is, if anyone is confused about registering for the VCF, particularly about the July 29, 2019 deadline, please get in touch with me. I'm at 917-647-7074, and lots of folks on board one have that phone number. If you call me, just leave me a message and I'll get back to you. But I think we need to head into the meat of this meeting, and more power to everyone here. And may we get an affordable tower, truly affordable Tower 5. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, still working out the kinks here. Thanks. So thank you so much. I think it's really obvious that not only does the community deserve and need affordable housing, but that there is the will to make it happen. And so I'm so happy to see this room full, to see the Zoom full. I'd like to now acknowledge and ask our state assembly member. I think I saw Yulene Yu. Is that Yulene's on?
I'm on. Yeah,
Zoom?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yulene?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Not yet. Sorry.
Yulene, sorry.
Just one sec.
It's an audio thing. Thank you so much. All right, you're good, and there shouldn't be a loud blaring sound.
Can you hear me now? Yes? I know for folks on the Zoom can.
We can hear you now loud and clear in the room
Okay.
as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Just want to say thank you all for, first off, inviting me this evening. I actually was walking on my way there and then got poured on. So I had to walk back home because my clothes became completely soaked. So I just want to say it's a privilege to be able to be here with all of you today. I just want everybody to know that, we got to hear from Jill, we got to hear from Kimberly. Please, make sure that if you are not signed up for the health program, please do if you are eligible, and then also make sure that you're also seeing if you're eligible for the Victims Compensation Fund. I think it's so important. People don't realize that some of the folks who we know every single day have still not signed up, and they should have a reminder as well, and we'll make sure to continue to completely push forward to remind folks and to continue to fund it. I think it's really important that we continue to fight to fund it continuously on the federal level, but also to have the expansion on the state level continued as well. I wanted to say especially thank you to Jill for talking about what Tom had talked about for so long, and also to be willing to share some of the wishes that Tom had. He is the person who drilled into me a little bit about 421G, about the World Trade Center 5, and some of the things that folks have been fighting for. Building. I think that one of the biggest things, when we're talking about places like Battery Park City, for example, people forget, right, that it was built to have affordable housing for folks. It was supposed to be more than 50% affordable. People forget that. That was the intention of Battery Park City, and that was the intention that folks had when they were building it. And that has been lost throughout time. And I think that it's really reassuring to see affordable housing at the site for WTC 5, but making only a small percentage of one single building affordable does nothing really to solve our systemic housing problem or to address the root causes of housing insecurity in our community. Our community suffered tremendously from September 11th, both physically and mentally. And I know that a lot of my neighbors still, some of them can't even go into some of the high rises, can't even go into some of the tall buildings. We are still experiencing the aftershocks of that damage today. A lot of folks have health issues and are also just starting to experience some of the health issues due to some of the half-lives of some of the chemicals that were breathed in. And this development is both a reminder of the past and a symbol of the opportunity that we have here in Lower Manhattan to build a better future. Whether that comes in the form of affordable housing, small business spaces, community use areas, it must serve us as a community. And we must do everything in our power to support the residents and the community that would otherwise be priced out. Our community deserves a transparent and responsive city planning process that actually incorporates our community's feedback in a meaningful way, unlike a memorial that was just proposed by our governor, and guarantees projects are accountable to our local community's needs. We can start by expanding the number of affordable housing units at 5 WTC, and we must ensure that all future development is truly and permanently, deeply affordable. Too often we've seen developers chasing big deals that are actually good for their corporate profits, but bad for the community, just like Jill had just mentioned. And we can't afford to be making these mistakes at a time like this. After this pandemic, we have seen how important it is that we have housing down here. And plans like that, that ignore our community's infrastructure, like grocery stores that are needed, open public spaces, or favoring private event spaces and high rent commercial luxury buildings that really just pad developer profits without deepening the sense of community. All of our building projects should actually advance our community core principles instead, right? And I hope that 5 WTC can serve as an example of how we do this process right. And as a community, I know that folks have fought, the folks in this room have been the ones who have fought to protect Elizabeth Street Gardens. The folks in this room have been the people that have fought to make sure that children are protected at 250 Water Street, around that area, right? We have been tortured online by people who have been calling us certain names, etc. But I will say that, this is one of the ways that, we want affordable housing in our communities. It's very true. It's just doesn't belong on particular sites, right? And we could have truly affordable, deeply affordable, and many hundreds of units in 5 WTC. And I think that this is something that our community has been wanting for a long time. And I hope that 5 WTC can actually serve as an example of how we can ask for these outcomes and get these outcomes and get that truly affordable housing for our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eileen. Oh, here we go.
Okay, you're hooked up.
That's okay. Are we good now? So thanks so much, Eileen, and thanks for your support as always. We so appreciate it. So I'd like to now introduce our next City Council member, Chris Marte.
Well, first of all, thank you for everyone for being here. Thank you to the coalition, all the people involved that got this meeting started. What we heard in that first Community Board 1 call, when they proposed to us what they wanted to do in our neighborhood, was a sham. That proposal did not represent the people that lived in this community for decades, did not represent the purpose of neighborhoods like Battery Park City and Lower Manhattan, which was one of the first and few immigrant communities that was affordable. And so I'm happy to see, like we always do, downtown residents, activists step up and fight back. And we need to do it. The proposal of only having 25% affordable housing is a disgrace to our neighborhood. And when we look at any other MIH plan throughout this city, we have to ask, who is it affordable for? And so I'm committed to partnering with this group. I'm happy to see a lot of familiar faces because we have to say no to this plan, to this proposal. We got to make sure that our community is involved every single step of the way. They're transparent. They're communicating to us about what we want to see and what we want to do in this neighborhood, not just the same way we've been seeing where it's top down. And so I'm happy that the community board members are here, a lot of our elected officials, leaders of other activist groups from the Seaport to Elizabeth Street Garden here, because this is a fight for Lower Manhattan. And we have to finally start pushing back so we restart how we see these processes done throughout our neighborhood. And I'm committed to doing that. We have to restart how we see affordability. We have to restart how communities engage. And we have to restart to make sure that this isn't a developer-driven model for the future of our neighborhood. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and let's do this together.
Your mom's got a battery behind.
Thank you guys. It's not dead yet. It's just the low power, so the camera's not connected. Yeah. That's where it was, right? Yep. You're all set. Everyone's right back there.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Chris, for always supporting your community. We really appreciate it. I'm apparently not in the video, but we have Aliana here. Did I say that right? Okay, from Senator Kavanaugh's office. Hi, everyone. Oh, okay. Okay. Hi. I know that you're all used to Lizzie Lee, my coworker, who's lovely and is now working more closely with our legislative team. I'm sorry for bouncing you around between all of our different staff, but I'm happy to be here in representing Brian. Yulene and Chris did a great job of covering what we want to say. Brian, as chair of the housing committee, is super committed to making sure that affordable housing is a part of his district as well as throughout the city. Yulene and Chris did a great job. We want to make sure that the housing is deeply affordable and that it's not only 25%. That's not enough. So we want to see a more significant portion of that be dedicated to deep affordability. And we're happy to be active participants in this fight and in this process. It seems like we have a strong coalition of folks gathered, and we're looking forward to supporting in any way that we can and definitely leading this process together. So happy to be here with you all.
You have a quick question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yulene and Chris, of course, are broadly committed to this thing coming out the way it should, but the senator chairs the housing committee.
Say it again. Sorry, that's our Bluetooth connection.
Good evening. City council doesn't have a direct say over this. Yulene arguably has input, but she's one of many assembly members. Brian chairs the housing committee. Are you prepared to commit on his behalf that he'll kill this thing if the deal isn't changed?
I think Brian is. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, that's it.
I'm sorry.
It's just technical difficulties.
I don't think that Brian has a specific number in his mind of it has to be
a much larger number, much deeper affordability. So I don't want to give you like a specific promise for what he wants to see exactly, but he's definitely with you. He's definitely supportive of this. And I think that as this sort of, sorry, I'm hearing a yelling on this side. Sorry. But we definitely want to be involved and make sure that what the community wants is being reflected, and that folks who need affordable housing, that their needs are being reflected.
The plan is with this group. This group is looking for 100%. Got it.
Yes, to repeat, this group is looking for 100% affordability. We are definitely excited about that. I mean, Brian is, as we know, we're going to need to find a source of revenue for this, and so that will be, a heavy lift for sure, but that doesn't mean we're not committed to searching for that and to looking for that together. I think we're excited to brainstorm together to see how we can make that possible. Yeah. Anything else? Awesome. Yeah, we're excited to do this together.
So thank you, and we look forward to Senator Kavanaugh's support in moving forward with this, with our goal of 100% affordability. I did just want to acknowledge Hannah, who's here from Representative Nadler's office. Thank you for joining us tonight. And then I also wanted to, our next speaker, if that's okay, wanted to invite Joe Graffagnino, and I'm Italian, and I do this every time. And whose son perished at the Deutsche Bank building, and we appreciate you and very sorry for your loss, but thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I've been very active in Lower Manhattan. I worked for General Services admin, One Federal Plaza, and when starting back in '93, I guess, when the first attack on the World Trade Center happened, my brother was the manager of Battery Park City area. And that started the ball rolling, so to speak, in the problems that were going on in Lower Manhattan. 9/11, of course, came. I was working at One Federal Plaza. We were very active in trying to relocate a lot of the federal agencies that were in basically all of the World Trade Center buildings. So we were trying to get, my particular job was phone service. So Verizon at the time had loaned us like 400 cell phones, but we had to put up towers. So I was working on various rooftops trying to hook up towers so that the cell phones would work and we would get some type of service. But through all of this, going all the way back, what astonished me, the one binding thing that was in all of this was that the people who worked it, not just the people who worked in the buildings, which were thousands, but when the problems happened and the resources had to be used, it was the lower class and middle class people, be them first responders, police officers, sanitation, federal employees, you name it. They were all lower class and middle class workers who responded to this, who worked in those buildings, who fought to bring everything back. My point of view is the city, the state, and Port Authority owe you affordable housing. There's no doubt. And then you gave your blood, your sweat, your tears, and your lives to make this happen. You can't give up. You can't stop. Just because they're trying to edge you out, you got to keep fighting. You got to keep fighting. You got to push back. You got to do whatever needs to be done to have affordable housing at the World Trade Center building. That's what I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. It means a lot to have your support and the support of other survivors from across the city. So thank you very much. Sorry, I just lost my agenda. So we are actually going to now we're going to talk about what we've already done. So I'm going to ask Mariama and Taylor, I can switch places, to talk about what the coalition has already done, and so how you'll know our website and whatnot, and I'll let you take care of that. Thank you.
So I think we moved pretty quickly in pulling this all together in a very, is that better? Not organized way, and the things just fell into place. And it started with, let's get a social media site. Let's, buy a domain with this name. And really just very organically, everything began to come together. People began to join. And now today we have a Facebook page with over 100 likes. We have a wonderful website that was built by one of our executive committee members, for lack of a better term, Michael Francor, and that is affordabletower5.com. There you can see all of the organizations that have joined us. I would name them, but I don't want to leave anybody out. But some really wonderful organizations. There are ways to volunteer, submit your information. We have a website, an email address also, affordabletower5@gmail.com. If you want to contact us. We have a Facebook group that's more private. People want to, share and talk, and it doesn't have to be specifically about the tower. It can be something survivor related or, something neighborhood related that we need to discuss. Please feel free to join that group and talk to us there. We have YouTube channel. We only have one video up, but it's a wonderful video. It's a video of the, what was that position? Manhattan Borough President. Senior moment. I just had my 50th birthday. Battery Park City for Black Lives Matter held a one-of-a-kind, never seen before type of racial and social justice-based Manhattan Borough President candidate forum, where 6 out of the 7 candidates attended, participated, and all 6 were fully committed to supporting this movement, this coalition, 1000%, some going as far as to offer their legal counsel and representation for the group. So, I couldn't be prouder of us all and how far we've already come. And I'm confident that we will be successful, that we are going to be victors at the end of this stuff, and we're going to get what we deserve,
So you guys are all some positions which are put on the screen. So far, 85 companies have signed it as individuals and over 1,000 organizations with many, many members on their listservs. Yeah, so if you haven't yet, sign the petition. For those on Zoom, you can see it. It's being shared with you on shared screen, and we're trying to build a momentum. So send it to whoever you can, talk about it, and I can come to the front and hand this back. But yeah, I think Mariama said it all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Taylor and Mariama, and Michael Francor, who is not couldn't join us this evening, but he also helped quite a bit on the website. And it's been a lot of hours and a lot of work and a lot of dedication, and I really, really appreciate it. But we're on our way. We're on our way to building a coalition that's going to make this happen for our neighborhood as we deserve. So I'd next like to ask Richard Corman to come up and speak about what we can do, what more we can do, and what we're going to do moving forward.
Thank you, Victoria. So I'm Richard Corman, president of Downtown Independent Democrats.
And you've heard so much here with so much eloquence. I'm not sure how much I can add, but I do want to say a few words. First of all, this is going to happen with our support, with the support of the community, the support of our elected officials that are here and with us, and those that we can bring together into this movement. There isn't a lot of time, but we have to do it, and we have to do it now. We in Downtown Independent Democrats have been fighting bad development plans for years. We've been fighting alongside of our new council member, Christopher Marte, for all these years, and we're delighted that he's going to be with us going forward, fighting this one as well. We fought Elizabeth Street Garden. We fought 2 bridges. We're still fighting, not just fought. We're fighting each of these. They're not over yet. The Chinatown Jail, the Soho NoHo rezoning, 250 Water Street. You've heard about some of these. Why are we fighting them? Because they're bad plans. Not because we don't want affordable housing or we don't want development. We don't want bad plans. Well, here at 5 World Trade Center, we have an incredible opportunity, an opportunity we cannot forego, an opportunity to fulfill the promise of Lower Manhattan Development Corporation for affordability in Lower Manhattan, a promise that they have not met. And we have the opportunity to create the most affordable housing that's been created in Lower Manhattan in decades. This is an opportunity we cannot miss. It's public land. It's for public benefit. We need to make that happen, and we can. Those plans that I talked about, they're bad. They destroy more than they create. Here we can create something amazing and destroy nothing. It's public land for our benefit. We have to make use of this moment. So I want to ask this. People say people in Lower Manhattan are against development. We're against affordable housing. Well, are we against affordable housing in Lower Manhattan? No. 100% affordable housing here at 5 World Trade Center. That's what we want here in Lower Manhattan for the first responders, for the people that built this community, the people that revived this community, the 9/11 survivors. This is what we want. This is what we need, and this is what we have earned. And it's there for us if we work at it, if we put our effort into this, but we don't have a lot of time. You heard from Todd, this train is moving, and we have to get in front of it. We have to move it in the right direction. And with the help of our elected officials and Chris, we can do this, but we need your help. Sign the petition, get on our website, get on our mailing list, look for our next rally. Join us. This is important. This can change the neighborhood of Lower Manhattan. We don't need more luxury development that'll make this place just even more unaffordable. We need real affordable housing.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you everyone so much for being here tonight. We'd love to have your, well, we have your support, so thank you so much. We'd love to have your involvement. We'd love to have you give of your time if you can and help us organize, help us write letters, help us do the next part of this movement. This is only the beginning, and I know that we can make this happen. I know that we need to make this happen because our neighborhood is disappearing because luxury housing. What we need is true affordability, and because the first responders and the 9/11 survivors deserve affordability, deserve to be here, to live in the neighborhood that they helped rebuild. And this is just the first place. We can make this happen. We can definitely make this happen. So thank you so much. If you haven't already, please make sure you signed in there. If you're on the Zoom, if you could please leave an email address or whatnot in the chat to, I guess, Taylor, if you don't want to leave it public, is that okay? to leave an email address in the chat if they're not, or I'm sorry, yeah, if you sign up, and that's right. So, oh, okay, well, can they hear me? Okay, so if you can still hear me, just please do sign our petition. You can sign up through our website so you can we'll keep you posted on what we're doing and our next move. And you know, please tell your neighbors, tell your friends, let people know, because I don't think this is what's going to make it change, is people knowing that this is what's going on. What happens is that it's not transparent, so we don't know, and all of a sudden there's a huge building there without with luxury housing, without any affordability, without any consideration whatsoever for the neighborhood. So let your neighbors know, let your friends know, even if they don't live here anymore and they're survivors, but they moved, please let them know this is something that matters, and we can make this happen. So thank you so much. We have a question.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment, if I can, about the history of affordable housing in downtown New York. Okay, I am a walking tour guide, and my family lived here over 100 years ago. There were numerous places throughout downtown that were communities that were destroyed by government acts of eminent domain. I'm talking about the construction of the police plaza east of the municipal building, the widening of Water Street, the development of the South Street Seaport, which displaced about twice as much as we have already. You know, what's left of the South Street Seaport is only about a third of what was there originally. And I'm talking about, in my day, I've seen all this happen. And also, of course, early in the 1940s, you had the development of the Battery Tunnel and Battery Garage that would start to displace the first half of the lower Manhattan area that was known as Little Syria, the multi-ethnic neighborhood. And by the 1960s, what was left of the neighborhood, the site of where the Deutsche Bank would be built after, that was also immigrant housing. There were thousands and thousands of people that were displaced from downtown New York by eminent domain, by government actions. And there was never affordable housing downtown New York to replace that. They had to go to other places where they could afford to live, to go to Brooklyn or out to Staten Island. They had no compensation. So we're talking about hundreds of units of affordable housing that had always existed downtown New York until the 1960s. This is the first opportunity I've heard of that ability to come back and have affordable housing. This is social justice for thousands of people who lost their homes. They lost their homes and their place to live and their livelihood because of government development. And now government should step in and actually have, for the wonderful reasons that you've all presented, about all the wonderful things that have happened downtown to try to revitalize from all the horrors and such, that this housing is your right. And it's also the right of these people that they should have for what they had lost, at least for the future now, for other people to have a place to decently house and live. And it's an incredible situation that's here now. We talk about essential workers, right? Well, essential workers making, minimum wage. Where can they afford to go? They want to build a memorial to them in Wagner Park, yeah. But how about giving them housing? What are they going to afford? So I'm just being an advocate on the basis of all the history. I've seen in my lifetime of over 70 years walking downtown, I've seen 1/3 of Lower Manhattan disappear in my lifetime. And that's one lifetime. This is the oldest part, the oldest history of New York is down here. And the immigrant neighborhoods that were here rivaled and in some ways excelled what we know of the Lower East Side, because you didn't have 27 nationalities living in the small few streets of Washington and Greenwich streets, just like we had over here with the Syrians living with the Greeks, with the Irish, with all the various Slovak peoples, all together 100 years ago. They were integrated into that neighborhood, and that neighborhood that they didn't want to leave, they were forced out of. So where is their justice? This can be kind of a little bit of postscript justice now for you today to have what they lost. So I'm just speaking for all those disenfranchised people. And I think this is a wonderful way of bringing back that neighborhood, an affordable neighborhood for people. Okay. You're welcome.
Yes, I just wanted to add one more thing to put it in perspective. The current building plan calls for about 1,300 apartments in that new building. Imagine if we had 1,000 or 1,300 or 1,500 real affordable apartments for families in this community. Imagine what a difference it could really make.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your history. Oh, okay. We have a Zoom speaker. Mariana Braverman will, just one moment and we'll get you set up so you can,
Okay, give us 1 second, Marianne, and I'll get you set up.
just, yeah.
I unmuted myself.
And
Are
introduce
you hearing
yourself
me?
for us. I'm sorry. Let me just get the audio connected. 1 second. Okay. Marianne, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Okay, so my name is Marianne Braverman, and I've lived in Battery Park City since 1982. And I worked down here until the South Tower fell, and I then worked in Midtown. I want to put a word in for a group of people who need housing and who are part of our lives here. And these are people who work pretty much at minimum wage. I'm talking about nannies, home health aides, people who work in restaurants here and retail stores. They need places to live nearer to their work, because I have seen people travel for 2 hours from the far edge of Brooklyn to get to Lower Manhattan and earn minimum wage. And so I just want that to be a group that is not forgotten as we talk about housing for our community, that these people are part of our community and they're contributing to our community. And honestly, they would help to diversify our community and our schools. So just want to plant that seed in everyone's head that I would like those people to be included in some manner in the housing that we can get for them. So thank you very much.
Is this back on?
Marianne, I muted you. Do you want to come back on?
Yeah, I of course couldn't agree with Ms. Braverman more,
Oh.
but wanted to add something that I think people often forget, which is one of the reasons why I asked Kimberly Flynn to be with us today and to speak today. The 9/11 community is extremely diverse. There are people in every state of the union receiving 9/11 related healthcare. There is a national program that covers us all. The centers of excellence aren't the only places that you can get 9/11 care. You don't have to go to Bellevue or Gouverneur or Elmhurst. You can be in North Carolina, in Alabama, in Hawaii, and you can get 9/11 related healthcare. So when we say we're talking about the 9/11 community, it's not just this neighborhood or even this district. It is the boundaries, of course, that the Victims' Compensation Fund puts forth and follows, and the boundaries that the health program puts forth and follows. But again, that includes people all over the country. We're talking students, area workers like nannies, whatever your position was, you worked in this area, you were here at that time. These are the people for whom we are seeking preference. You know, so just so everybody understands, the umbrella is huge on this thing. Okay.
Would you mind coming up here? It would just be easier for our live check. Thank you.
Hi, I live 2 blocks south of the Trade Center site, and I worked with Kimberly Flynn in 9/11 Environmental Action to fight against the Deutsche Bank demolition the way it was and watch that fire from my rooftop. So I just want to say that there's a difference between affordable housing and low-income housing, and no one uses that term. And it really bothers me that no one uses the term low-income housing. That's more than what we need, because affordable housing you could be earning $100,000 a year to get affordable housing. It's kind of ridiculous. But what I also want to talk about here, because we're sort of talking in circles, is I want to know about next steps. I know we have to have our elected officials on our side and working with us, but can we also crash these meetings? Can we protest? I want to know what our next steps are, what we can plan for our future of this group. Thank you.
And that was really well said, because that's the whole point of the idea of the affordable housing that we're asking for, is to include everybody and to also have tiers, because we need the affordable housing for low income, moderate income, and middle income people, because this community and the people who are the 9/11 survivors, the families of the 9/11 survivors, and the children of those people are all being unable to live in the homes that they grew up in or the areas in which they live. And by doing what they're doing is they're forcing people out of their neighborhoods, because the gentrification pushes on the gentrification and people are being forced from their homes. What we're looking to do is start with 5 World Trade Center as the model, I think, for affordable. And the word is you're right, it's fungible affordable, but having tiers. And if to make it work, they need 5% luxury, knock yourself out. But of that 1,300 apartments, most, if not all, need to be middle, low, and moderate income housing. But then you ask, what's the next steps? Okay, so what I do is Mariama and I are both on the Quality of Life Committee of Community Board 1. I think that all community boards need to be jumping on board with this, but we could at least speak to this. Mariama is the co-chair. I'm a member of the committee. And we invite you to come to the meetings, okay? You know, look it up, Manhattan Community Board 1, look it up, sign up for the meetings. It's usually, I think, the second Thursday of the month, third Thursday of the month. Zoom right now, we're hoping to keep it quasi like this, where we have in person and Zoom, so it would be a perfect thing to do. But yeah, starting there and then onward, sign our petition, come to our meetings, because we're looking to move this forward, and I'm gonna let other people speak to it, but we're looking to move this forward and have a momentum. And the more people we have, the more power and the more motion we're going to have. And just as a side of thing, my past 24 hours have been spent in Rockefeller Park, protesting against the putting the Essential Workers Memorial in Rockefeller Park and killing all those trees. I will tell you that those people in the North neighborhood of Battery Park City have slept outside since Monday. They got there at 6 a.m. on Monday morning when the plows came. Children laid in front of the bulldozers. Bulldozers are gone. We have, things are talking, trees still exist, and we're talking. People can do things. They have 7,000 signatures already on their petition. We need that kind of motion here, and we've got a lot bigger of a constituency for 5 World Trade Center. So please, everybody, online, talk to your friends, talk to your family, all of you people, the media who are listening, if there's any media listening, reach out, because it's now. Richard, you said the time is now. We do not have time to wait, okay? We don't have time to wait, and our elected officials can only do what we ask them to do. And, you know, even the few of us that are here, whether it's 100 people, 50 people, whatever, that is not enough. We need thousands. So talk to everybody. Come on up, you got to speak, but thank you. Thank you.
Speaking to this headphones. Okay. Yeah, my name's Lynn Ellsworth, and I just have some questions about strategy. You know, this is a site now, was it Brookfield and Silverstein think they own this place, and in the court of law they might. So I think there's a question of how do you seize the property rights away from them, and I think that should happen. But I think if this fight is cast as an MIH battle, you're going to fail. MIH is a failed policy that has only produced mandatory inclusionary housing. It has only produced 2,000 units of affordable housing the entire de Blasio administration as of December 2019. So there might be a few more now, you know, but it's a complete failure. I think people know that now. So I think it's like, well, what's the other model that's not MIH? And that is 100% low-income housing. It's a NYCHA model. And I think that needs to be brought up, that why can't we have something else? Like forget no luxury units, because that idea is that we're subsidizing the wealthier, subsidizing the poor, and that doesn't work, that hasn't worked. So I think a new framework needs to be brought up for this project. So that's all. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to have separation. I want integration of these. Yeah, integration and putting everybody together. Because NYCHA has pockets of poverty. We don't want pockets of poverty. I don't. I think that the model should be everybody being together. No corridors, no rich neighborhood, no poor neighborhood. We all are equal. We're all people. We should be all living together. Race, income, irrelevant. That's what I want.
So I think we have a couple of people on Zoom who want to speak. Taylor,
Hey, yeah, I think Lindsay Boylan just joined us. Give me 1 second to set up the audio, Lindsay.
yeah. You can just mute me and just go on and do as you'd like. As it works.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
All right, Lindsay, let's see if we can hear you now.
Wonderful. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, loud and clear. Let me pin your video.
Oh no, I'm in transit, so it wouldn't come out
Okay.
anyways. I've been
Okay.
lurking, and I'm so
No
glad to be here, be supportive. Sorry, I'm a little late, but just piggybacking off of what Lynn was saying, you know, and I think everyone agrees, we can't rely on anything like mandatory inclusionary housing. And when we talk about 100% affordability, we really need to talk about too what that means, because you know, HUD's assessment of area median income isn't affordable for most people, and a lot of people are left out of opportunity. And so I think it is relevant when Lynn says, you know, we may not want NYCHA as the model because it's been so poorly managed, and it's one, you know, a more consolidated income bracket. But I think we just want to reinforce that we should be going for much deeper affordability than even what mandatory inclusionary housing contemplates beyond just the percentage. It should be 100% affordable, but what we mean by affordable has to be much larger brackets, because if we don't think about it differently, we're not going to be helping anyone in a broader way. So just want to back that up and say I'm excited to be supportive in whatever way I can.
Victoria, would you like to speak as well on the Zoom?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear in the room as well. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry I'm caught in the rain. Look, many of us are the survivors of Manhattan after 9/11. Those planes were aimed at our homes. And just for everyone that spoke to the notion that this housing should be for everyone, I hope that I speak for everyone to say, of course, we want whoever needs this housing to have it from anywhere. But there was $40 billion in Liberty Bond money and infrastructure. We were promised by George Bush, standing on top of that pile, that he heard us, while his wife tried to explain to us how we were to explain terrorism to our children. I know for us, we were 8 blocks away and feeding the first responders while those trucks went down the street. And the money went to Bank One and to build the New York Times building, and maybe something for Navy Yards and the Greenwich Hotel and 57 Reed. We never saw that money. This is our money. And I really would just like to say, on a very personal note, as someone that knows my firemen, and we know them very personally, and I think everyone in Lower Manhattan looks at our firemen as if they are our heroes. We know what heroes mean. And at this particular site, there were firemen that ran into buildings where there were previous building complaints. It was whether it was intentional or not, we may never know. But I would really like to make a very strong call that those men that gave their lives at the Deutsche Bank building in honor of their lives, in honor of all of us that suffered what we had to explain to our children. Mine had bats under their bed at NYU that they were going to protect their roommates from the terrorists. So I think that this is really our moment to say, hey, wait a minute. You know, this is our money. Somebody better find that money, and it needs to be affordable. And I hope that we can really tie the firemen into this that really ran into those buildings, whether it was a World Trade or Deutsche Bank. I would like to see the DOB make this commitment to all of us as New Yorkers, to HPD, to make this commitment to all of us, that we want them to clean up their acts, that those men went in and died needlessly. And that really was the lawsuit, that they gave their lives needlessly. So that was just my 3 cents. And of course, I'll follow everyone else's lead, but I think that we really need to find our passion and really hang our hats on these firemen. They are our heroes. If that building is called Fireman Plaza, we want that building 100% affordable. So that's where I'm coming from on it, and I think it's only right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Anyone else on the Zoom interested? I know we have Pat Moore from CB1 Quality of Life Chair and Paul Newell. Anyone, if I'm not seeing you, let me know if you'd like to speak on the Zoom.
May I speak? Hello, may I speak?
Michael Kramer,
Yeah,
is that you
hi.
on the Zoom?
Yeah, hi, Michael Kramer from the Seaport Coalition.
Awesome.
As you probably know, we've been fighting Howard Hughes with their luxury development in the Seaport Historic District. And they're using as an excuse that there's a public benefit, and they're using as an excuse that that public benefit is 70 units of affordable housing. When they started, they wanted 160, and then it was 100, and then it was 90, and now it's down to 70. You know, they're just hiding behind affordable housing and not making a real commitment to it. And then when we were asked to make reasonable alternatives, we suggested 100% affordable housing at 5 World Trade Center. You know, a little history, you know, the Lower Manhattan, the downtown Lower Manhattan Association was David and Nelson Rockefeller back in the 50s and the 60s. And they're the ones who decided that they should have a World Trade Center. They're the ones who moved the World Trade Center. It was supposed to be on the East River below John Street. And it was moved over to its present location because of its proximity to the PATH train and because the governor of New Jersey insisted upon it. The definition of making affordable housing is to get land at an affordable price, and there's no public cost to this land. And if there's no public cost to this land, you can afford, that's the subsidy that makes an affordable housing project possible. So, you know, anything we can do to help, you know, just ask. We're trying to spread the word that, you know, we want real affordable housing, not just some token here and there that lets you evade the landmarks, you know, historic district designation or allows you to take over the Seaport with a 99-year lease. It's just not the right thing. And, you know, no matter how much Alicia Glenn and Vicky Bean talk a big deal about their affordable housing goals, it's not affordable, A, and B, it's just a token. It's, you know, to do it right, you need public land, and if you have public land, you need to take advantage of it. So thank you, Todd, and everybody else for doing this.
Sorry, guys on Zoom. Anyone else want to speak? I don't see any hands.
I would like to speak.
Penny, welcome. Please go ahead.
Okay. Mark Lander, running for controller had as one of his issues the use of public land to be committed to housing, affordable housing, 100% affordable housing. So I just wanted to point that out, and I was wondering if he's aware of this effort, if he's part of this effort, because he would be on board, I believe, with this effort. That's all.
Thank you, Penny. Okay, I'm gonna move to the room's audio. Give me 1 second.
Oh, I wanted to say that I had a brief conversation with Mr. Brad Lander about it, but we need more. I don't think he just had very, very quick conversation. So if anyone knows how to reach him, I do think he would be a great supporter of this. And I know that in principle, he will support it fully. I wanted to encourage people to think also about the federal government, because we can't remember, this is federal government money. This is the Housing and Urban Development, which is mission basically is affordable housing, put up hundreds of millions of dollars for this site. And in fact, the LMDC has requested that the federal government suspend normal reporting requirements, because normally if you receive funds from the federal government, you can't just sell it, lease it to a private developer and make profit out of it. They actually are construing this as a benefit because it will somehow enable the September 11th memorial. But that is really unreasonable, especially if they have to suspend the reporting requirements. My general point is that we also need to lobby the Biden administration. I think it's worthy of it. We have in 2 months, we have probably the Biden administration coming here, and we will have the opportunity to tell them what we want on this site and to tell the international press that will be here. I mean, we don't want to take away from the memorial of the people who died. I think we are doing justice by pointing out that this recovery needs to benefit the survivors and be true to the people who sacrificed on 9/11. So I think we have an opportunity to lobby the federal government. And I think we need to think about how we can do that. And I think it could be a signature initiative for the Biden administration if they actually stood up to the Port Authority and the LMDC and say, you're not going to spend our money on this Silverstein project. And we should, this is basically building another Hudson Yards, by the way. Silverstein and Brookfield control 10 properties altogether in the immediate vicinity. So that would be what the Biden administration would be signing off on if they did that. I don't think anybody in New York or across the country wants that with their tax dollars. So.
I too just wanted to clarify a few things. So I keep forgetting this darn mask. Finally remember to use it, and now I can't remember to take it off. Just to clarify a couple of things. So this coalition is not seeking to establish MIH, and we're not encouraging MIH. I personally am hugely against MIH. I think it's a joke, and that's not what we're pursuing. Just so everybody understands that. I think there may have been a miscommunication. We are seeking 100% affordability to varying degrees of affordability, tiers, if you will, as Justine said, and with a preference for 9/11 survivors, first responders, their children, and seniors. We're not excluding anyone. That's a preference. We like to see, and why are we doing that? Why 9/11 survivors? Not because we feel we're better than anybody else, but again, because this is 9/11 money, at least in part, that is being used here. And of course, the World Trade Center, it's in itself is a representation of 9/11. That's what it is. It's a monument to 9/11 and our victory over the terrorists, is it not? So that is why we are seeking preference for 9/11 survivors. It does not mean that we wish to exclude anyone else. But as the speaker said from the member of the public, we do want our due. Like, don't get that misconstrued either. Don't make that mistake. 9/11 survivors are here for what is ours. That LMDC was created to facilitate the dispensation of 9/11 funds to rebuild Lower Manhattan. Look it up, the definition, why it was created, and when it was created. The sole purpose was to facilitate disbursement of this money to rebuild Lower Manhattan because of 9/11. So if anyone deserves to benefit or partake, participate, whatever word you want, the use of this money, the final change, whatever's left over, that's what we're talking about, the leftover funds, so that the LMDC can close, can collapse. It is 9/11 survivors. And I did just bring up the names of the organizations while we're on the record here and being reported. I do want to mention the organizations thus far who have signed up to become members of this coalition. It is 109 Washington Street Residents, the 9/11 Environmental Action, Alliance for a Human Scale City, BPC for BLM, Climate Reality Project, the NYC or Metro chapter of the Climate Reality Project, Democracy for Battery Park City, Downtown Independent Democrats, Independence Plaza North Tenants Association, Save the Sphere, the Seaport Coalition, Soho Alliance, and the Village Preservation.
Thanks so much, Mariama. I just wanted to make a quick clarification because I'm not sure if I misheard. I think Lynn before said, this is not Silverstein or Brookfield property. It is not. It is Port Authority property, and it's meaning it's public property, and it is not a done deal. That's why we need to act now. It's not a done deal. So we need to be acting now to make this happen. I think we have maybe 2 more speakers and we do have to wrap this up, but is it, Tammy's on? Okay, great. So Tammy, the chair of Community Board 1 is going to join us. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Tammy, welcome. Give me 1 second to set the audio up. Okay, we should be able to hear you. Do you want to unmute?
I'm here.
Loud and clear. Woo! Okay, you're all set to go.
I'm here and I'm listening, so it's a good thing. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm hoping that we can do many more meetings like this. The more information we get out there, the more information that's shared, the better it is for the public. So this is all good. I apologize for being late, but real life sometimes, kids, work, life, as they say.
Thank you for being here.
I fully expect every single one of you to keep the pressure up because we are still looking for answers. I think that Mariama, what she was just talking about LMDC and the conversations that were said at the community board in terms of the public response and questions that were raised, we are still waiting for the same answers that you are. And as soon as we have them, we will share them. I can't tell you what it was to, quote, make the Port Authority whole. We've not seen the financials. When we do, we are hoping that we can share that and show everybody so we can have a robust dialogue. And that's, I think, is the core root of where we're starting on this.
Thank you, Tammy. And now Dennis, our district leader down here, is going to speak as well.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. This is so important. And Jill, Tom was a very good friend of mine. That was very moving, what you said earlier. And yeah, Tom talked about this a lot. This is so important. As you know, I'm a public school teacher. I'm joined by Raphael Tompkin, a fellow teacher who's also a DID member. We have teachers who travel 2+ hours a day to come in to teach and then get back on a bus or whatever and go way out to go where they can afford to live. We need affordable housing for people who do the work for the city. And that includes firefighters, that includes police, that includes teachers, nurses, the people who drive the buses. These are the people who make this city run. So if we build this tower to the affluent, there's no going to be no bus drivers living in there. And that's just wrong. These are the people who make the city run. We have to honor these people, and we have to honor the people who survived the attacks on 9/11. And so this is the right thing to do. This is a powerful coalition, and I'm just honored to be part of this group.
Thank you. So we are going to end it for this evening, but thank you all so much. We'll be in touch, and we'll know what the next steps, let you guys know what the next steps are.